the sails of the sea are over the wild briny pool. For the ocean and deep sails upon high is just like a bird on the wing. And when the shadows of evening draw nigh, he'll sail to thy window and see. Come take a trip in my airship. Come take a sail among the stars. Come have a ride around Venus. Come have a spin around Mars. No one to watch while we're busy. No one to see while we school. Come take a trip in my airship and we'll visit the man in the moon. Will the audience...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 69 of Airship 27's podcast. I'm your co-host, Chief Engineer Rob Davis, virtually alongside my co-host via Skype, Ron Fortier.
Yay! How's everybody doing this month of November? Man, the year, hallelujah, is finally whipping by. All right?
The year that will go down in infamy.
The one we want to get into the rear view mirror as soon as possible. All you loyal airmen. Hey, I got to show off. Rob knows this already, but I got to show this off. My birthday was at the start of this month, and my lovely wife, my dear Valerie, gifted me with wireless headphones. I'm no longer getting snug up in my swivel chair while doing these recordings.
Cool.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah. These are nice. These are Logitech, by the way, and I'll give a little promo to it. I checked out on YouTube to see what was available, what was, the current stuff, and these rate really, really high.
Logitech's good. Logitech is good.
I'm very, very happy with them. So anyways, hey, guess who gets to start with the bad joke of the month? I do.
Someone named Ron, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And trust me, it's a stinker. Okay, here we go. All right. As it turns out, 3 gentlemen all die on the same day and get to heaven. And there's the pearly gates, and sure enough, there's St. Peter standing there. And as they're walking up to the pearly gates, St. Peter opens his arms and says, "Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to heaven, your just reward." He says, "But there's been some changes lately, and we have to tell all the incoming souls about the changes." And now they all start getting a little nervous. He said, No, relax. He said, "The mere fact that you reach this point, all your sins have been forgiven, and you are all coming into the happy eternal heaven. But here's the thing. God was thinking the other day, heaven has just gotten way too big. I mean, people have been dying for thousands of years, and he says he needed more room to spread so that the angels and the saints could move around. And he just didn't think it was fair that all of you would have to get around by foot. So the good Lord's giving you all an automobile to use here in heaven." The 3 guys look at each other and he says, "But here's how this is going to work." He says, "You, sir," and he picks the youngest guy. He says, "Are you married? Were you married on earth?" "Yes, I was." He says, "For 27 years. All right. Did you ever cheat on your wife?" "Wait a minute." I thought, no. He says, "Just bear me out." "All right. How many times?" "I don't know, maybe 9, 10. St. Peter goes, "Your sins are forgiven, but," snaps his fingers and a Pinto appears. "That's your car." The guy looks at him, gets in the Pinto and drives off. So now the other 2 guys are, what's going on? St. Peter turns around and looks at the next elderly gentleman, middle-aged guy, and he goes, "Were you married?" "Oh, yeah." He says, "I was." He says, "My wife and I were married for about 48 years. "And did you ever cheat on her?" "Yeah, I did. Early on in the marriage, but only once. And I confessed it to her, and we worked it out, and I never did it again." That's admirable, St. Pete. Snaps his fingers, and there's a Lincoln Continental. He says, "Enjoy your stay in heaven." So the guy looks at the older guy, says goodbye, and drives off. St. Pete walks over to the older gentleman who says, I already know the question. He said, I was married for 68 years to the most beautiful, loving, loyal woman in the world, and I never cheated on her once, not once in all those years. St. Peter goes, that's wonderful. Snaps his fingers and a brand new Jaguar appears. Enjoy heaven. So the old duffer gets in his Jaguar and drives off. Well, a few months go by, and the two guys in the Pinto and the Lincoln are driving around heaven one day, and they just happen to come across this one corner, and the old gentleman with the Jaguar is parked over to the side of the road, and he's sitting on a park bench in heaven, and he's bawling his eyes out. Well, they stop, and they get out of their cars, and they walk over, and, hey, Gramps, what's going on? And he's sobbing, and he says, I was coming around this corner and I happened to look across the field and my wife is here. And the guy goes, what are you crying? He says, she's zipping around on a skateboard.
I kind of saw that coming, but that's funny. Oh, okay. That's bad. Yep, that's bad. Yep, that's really bad.
I want to thank our buddy from Texas, Christopher Chance, who posted that earlier in the week on Facebook. That's where I found it, and I already told Chris. I said I'm swiping that one for the podcast. So the vibe in the house. Valerie wanted to hit me when she heard it. But my granddaughter, my grandson laughed their heads off. They thought it was a surprise. Whatever your taste. Okay, hey, look, we got some different things to talk about this episode, and I'll let you have the first one, which is really a fun little item.
Okay. It says, welcome back, Pulped. A few years back, our pal Tommy Hancock hosted a podcast called Pulped. Joining him were Derek Ferguson, Barry Reese, and Captain Ron. Then over time, issues with ill health and other commitments forced Tommy to stop doing the show. Now, at the bequest of so many of us Pulp fans, he has relaunched the podcast as a weekly show where he'll be interviewing various new pulp creators. His first episode, out now, features LA writer Gary Phillips. We here at Airship 27 are thrilled to have this show back on the air. We'll post a link in our show notes. Welcome back, Pulped. We missed you. And again, I'll put that address in the show notes. It'll be easier than me trying to read it to you. And I may even put it as a caption at the bottom if I can do that. When I put this together. That might make it a little easier, but I'll also put it in the show notes for sure.
Right. I listened. It aired last night, incidentally, as we're recording this. It went live yesterday afternoon, and it's like our show. It's an hour long. And so I made a point after dinner to sit down and plug it in. And and again, Tommy's a great guy, and he's really an excellent interviewer. I've seen him do this at panels, and conventions and whatever. And I had never heard Gary Phillips talk, although he and I have communicated, and he's done some work for us in the past on Bass Reeves, and hopefully will be doing some other stuff with us as well. A fascinating hour, really, really fascinating. Gary talked a great deal because Tommy sent it on it. He's got a brand new novel that just came out from Amazon this past week. I think it's totally beautiful pulp. Matthew Henson and the Aztec Temple of Harlem.
Wow, what a title!
So if that doesn't encapsulate pulp, I don't know. But it makes me want to go out and pick up the book. And as we're saying, if you're looking for a fun hour a week to learn a little bit more about new pulp, you watch our show, so obviously you have an interest in that, then you might want to check this out. Again, Tommy's one of the early, creators to enter when New Pulp got launched, 15, 20 years ago, and has been a very, very vibrant part of the community.
Absolutely.
Not only as a writer, editor himself, but with ProSay, which is easily one of the leading New Pulp publishers out there. So do give Pulp a listen. I think you'll really get a kick out of it. All right, so here we go. For a year that started out slow,
Oh, tell me.
yeah, the engines have warmed up.
Yeah.
We have got stuff coming.
We've got
down
tailwinds now.
Boy, yeah, we're really going to fly out of 2020 gloriously with some awesome new titles.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, I want to kick this off with, so recently released, and remember, Loyal Airman, last month in October, we released 3 books. Okay, so here we are. Today is the 20th of November, and we've already released 2 this month. The first one being Alice in Neverland, and it's a new novel by R.A. Jones, which has writer Lewis Carroll's famous Alice from Alice in Wonderland ending up in Neverland and meeting James Barrie's boy who never grew up, Peter Pan, for a fun-filled adventure together. Gary Cato turned in the 9 amazing black and white illustrations, and of course the ever-sensational Ted Hammond did a cover that has people talking now. They're going crazy for that thing, and
Yeah,
as they
great
should.
cover.
It is a beautiful cover. Ted had mentioned it on Facebook, the day we released it, and pointed his own fans to it. And when I saw that, I took the opportunity and I posted in a comment, and I told Ted he should make prints of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
he should.
really, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're parents or grandparents out there and you have kids who are reading age, who are getting into the classics like Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and all those kind of things, trust me, this thing matted and framed would be phenomenal. All right. I mean, it's a beautiful picture, and I think Rob will do as he did last month at the end of the show.
Yeah. I'll try to. Yep.
Yeah, follow the show to the end. Rob will post a picture of that cover for you to see. It's absolutely gorgeous. And what else did we get out this month, my friend?
Okay. Well, also, we got Mark Justice's The Dead Sheriff, Volume 4, which is called Purity. It's by writer Michael Housel. Once again, half-breed Chevallo, journalist Richard O'Malley of Boston are battling evil in the Wild West with the use of the zombie lawman, the Dead Sheriff. This is the 4th in the series created by the late writer Mark Justice, who passed away before he could launch the series. With the blessings of his wife, Norma K. Justice, we are going to continue the adventures of these unique characters. Michael Housel turned in a terrific story with a great new villain. Yours truly did the interior illustrations, and Michael Youngblood provided our cover. Now, as usual, when I was illustrating this, I read the whole book, and I will tell you, I was creeped out in several places. I mean, this is as with all the other Dead Sheriff books, this was got a mixture of humor, dark humor, and some horror mixed in. And I'll tell you that this has got that, but there were a couple of sections in there. It creeped me out. It really did. It's a very, very good story. If you like weird westerns, and if you've read the previous Dead Sheriff volumes, you will really enjoy this one.
Yeah, I think Michael knocked it out of the park. No doubt about it. All right. He had read the previous ones, which is what, and reviewed them, out of the kindness of his heart. And when I had read his reviews, I realized that he had an instinct for the characters and what the series was all about. So after Fred Adams finished volume 3 for us, Holster Full of Debt, and I really want the series to continue, and trying to find other writers to pull in on it to make it a large bullpen of people that we can draw from.
Sure.
So again, I immediately thought of Michael because of his past reviews, and so wrote and said, "Hey, I know you're familiar with the characters in the setup. Would you like to do one of these?" And I know I caught him by surprise, but it didn't take him too long to realize, okay, that it was a challenge for him as a writer as well. And he went back, reread the first 3, gave me a plot, and away we went. And I love that you used the word creep because he's already gotten a review up on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's a very short review. It's by a woman who basically said, I just read this, and although it's kind of creepy, she said, although it's
Yes.
kind of creepy, she said the characters are endearing, and she said I found myself really enjoying it. So
Yes.
that's the dead sheriff,
The
people.
villain is villainous. The good guys are good, and there's always that little bit of suspense. You know, is everyone going to make it through this story alive?
Oh yeah,
It's very well done. Michael really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and we can't wrap up this little segment without again reminding people we have a fifth book in the works that will hopefully be out next year. And that's from another writer of horror and even weird westerns, Michael Panush of California. Okay, and Michael, trust me, Michael knows this genre extremely well because he created and wrote his own series called El Mosaico. All right, about a Frankenstein type character.
Ah, okay.
Okay. All right. Let me give that a plug. I really should. The concept with El Mosaico is it's the end of the Civil War and the South's losing badly. And a doctor in the South is Dr. Frankenstein. And so his idea to help the Confederate, military command is to put dead soldiers back into the field.
Oh my.
So again, and so basically he starts assembling a soldier from dead Confederate soldiers.
Oh my.
But he can only get one finished and actually revived, a la Mary Shelley's little, electricity and everything else, when Lee surrenders at Appomattox, leaving the one zombie, reincarnated soldier or whatever, still kicking. And basically this character ends up saying, well, I ain't sticking around here, packs his bags, and ends up going out west to become a bounty hunter. And the Mexicans...
Frankenstein's monster is a bounty
hunter called
in the Old West.
Right.
Oh, man.
I believe Michael has done at least 2 or 3 collections because each book has 3 or 4 stories, featuring the character, and even a comic book version was done. So obviously, as you can see, he was the right choice for me to go tap.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
To do the dead sheriff. So hey, go find El Mosaic on Amazon and tell them the guys at Airship 27 sent you. All right. So hey, that's what we got out. And before the month is out, Rob, I think we still may get another book out.
I think so. It just depends. It depends on how the proofreading gets done and how the writers kind of skip through theirs and get it back to me.
Right.
I think you wrote a story for this one.
Right. So
you're already looking.
We're getting into what's coming next, and what Rob and I are alluding to is one of these may be out within the next week of this podcast airing, which would give us another 3 books in November. But at the top of the list, again, what Rob referred to is All American Sports Stories Volume 2. All right. Rob did all the interior illustrations for this, and Adam Shaw is currently fine-tuning his cover.
Right.
Rob actually turned around and gave us 6 different compositions to look at for the cover.
Yeah, Adam did. Yeah, he gave us 6 different things to look at, and they were all stunning. So it was hard to pick, but Ron and I bounced them back and forth, and I got it down to 3. Then Ron,
I got it to 2.
I'll make Ron pick.
Yeah, I got it to 2 and said, okay, Rob, you're the art director. Which one do we go with? Yeah. But you know what? Again, it's going to be
beautiful. I couldn't
beautiful.
make a bad choice because they were both great. The ones that were,
they
were all great.
Yeah.
So
Adam is such a talented artist. So so that you have an idea, there are 3 stories in this new volume, and Adam's cover will feature the first, which is the longest. It's a novella by our buddy Derek Ferguson, and it's a boxing story. Bare knuckle boxing, okay? and it's exceptional. The characters are phenomenal.
Yeah.
The fight scenes are riveting. It's really, really well done. And so it was no brainer for us to say that's got to be the cover for this volume. Then it follows up with a really, really funny and unique baseball story. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this one is more for the diehard baseball fans.
Yeah.
If you're in, and you know what, Rob, I found it really ironic and coincidental that we're publishing this story this year. Okay, and basically the concept of the story, folks, is most of you baseball fans will know the season starts early in April. It's a long season. It's one of the longest sports seasons of all the sports out there, and doesn't end until October sometime for the World Series. So that's usually the thing. All right. I mean, these teams play 165 games a year. All right. I mean, it's nonstop all summer long. So they start in the cold if you're in a New England team on the East Coast, and you will likely be playing the World Series in the cold. All right.
Yep.
So what Dexter did was Dexter, using the den rules, all right, for finals and wild cards and when you get to the end of the season, said, I wonder if numerically you could figure out where some teams would be so tied with their records that you'd have to push the finals back and keep having playoff games until you're playing baseball in December. And as ludicrous as it sounds, mathematically, his story's 100% accurate. And I, as a baseball fan, I got a kick out of it. It's really different.
It was a little much for me. I don't get into the weeds and the statistics and all that. And Dexter does with this story. I get where he's going with it, but I'm not that deep a fan. I like to go to the ballpark, watch him play ball, eat the hot dogs, eat the peanuts. But I don't care for the box. I don't care about the box scores.
Right.
I'm just caring about this particular game and whether they win or lose. So I get it, but it was a little much for this fair weather fan.
And so the point I was making was, so here we go. Right. We had this. The start of the season, especially around summertime, there was no baseball. All right.
Yeah.
Spring season was canceled because of COVID, and they sent everybody home. All right. So comes the traditional start of the games, and there's no games. They start the summer in June, right? There's no baseball. And all of us are thinking, well, this is going to be a year without baseball. And then along about July, out of the blue, the baseball commissioner goes, well, maybe we can have a shortened season with 60 games, right? And now they start bringing the players back who hadn't had any real training, any loosening up, all right? They start playing these games. And Rob, if you saw any bits and pieces of this during the season, all right, they were canceling games because of COVID outbreaks on the teams.
Yeah. They didn't have enough players to field. They had too many people that were either quarantined or actually had caught it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this kept going on. And ultimately, eventually, it basically, they wrapped it up. They got it done in October. There was a World Series, and it was done. Hey, are we still on?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you see me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Because
you blipped out, huh?
Yeah, it shrunk out. Here we go. All right.
Okay. Scared you.
No, well, hey, you never know.
We have had this, folks. We have had this thing go completely down. In fact, we've had a couple of times where I forget to hit the start button. We get halfway through the show, and I go, "Oh crap, we got to start over." I forgot to hit record. So yeah, we're always a little concerned when we get this far into the show and something happens. But okay.
Okay, so yeah, we're live.
We're good. We're good.
It was just an image that flipped up on my screen, another monitor thing that I was still logged on to.
Okay.
But anyway, so here we go. We end up with a story about a weird baseball season on a year where we had a weird baseball
season. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we wrap it up with a story that I wrote called "The Kicker," which was a kind of different thing for me, in that it's a story about a Vietnam veteran who comes home and basically is disabled because of being wounded, a wounded warrior, and again reflects on some of the past experiences that I had and was familiar with during my own year over there. And ironically enough, I've never written about that or extensively, maybe bits and pieces here and there. But this was something that, as I started writing it, and I had told Rob this, I had the plot in mind where I wanted to go with the characters and the challenge and what was going to happen in the story. And again, it's a sports story. But I came across a scene halfway through the story that caught me by surprise, because I was reliving, and the year is 1968, the year I came home and out of the Army. And without spoils or whatever, I think Rob will know the scene I'm talking about.
I do.
Which I hadn't relived or given any thought to in a long, long time. And as a writer, one of the things you do when you do write and create is that you let these things happen. You let your imagination go, and based on the realities that you know. So I'm writing a scene, and all of a sudden I'm in a locale, and my mind says, well, this is what you should be seeing. And it caught me flat-footed. It really caught me flat-footed.
Yeah. And
it's
based in reality. Yeah. It's definitely based in reality. It's a sad piece of reality from that era that's I think many of us that were around at that time kind of regret. That was not very good, but I won't give it away. But because it's a good scene, but it's
So so the thing is, between you and I, and we're going to be a little vague about this, but because again, I don't want spoils here, but as it also turns out, again, life imitating art, art imitating life. A good friend of ours, Jamie Ramos, recently underwent some very serious surgery. We've mentioned the fact that he has a failing kidney. He suffers from diabetes and whatever. And approximately 2 weeks ago, had some surgery and is doing all right, has recovered. And his attitude is inspiring, to say the least. He's not quitting. He's hanging in there, and it's a new life for him. And I found myself thinking of the story I'd written, the character I'd written, and so I wrote Jamie a letter the other day, Rob, and I shared an illustration that you had done with my character in the hospital.
Yeah.
I shared it with him because I told him at the end that it's just ironic that this would happen all in the same year and the same time. But I wanted him to know that my character was a fictional hero and that Jamie to me is a real life hero. And hey, James, if you're watching this, bravo. Okay. You're a man of courage, integrity, and you hang in there. Okay.
Yep. So hang in there.
So that's it. All American Sports Stories is pretty much done. What we're waiting for now is
Adam's cover.
Adam's cover and the proof, and that's it. Yeah. It's something that I think we're very happy with and very proud of. Okay, so what might come after that, Rob?
Well, we've also mentioned Bass Reeves Frontier Marshal Volume 4 with stories by Mel Odom, Terry Alexander, Derek Ferguson, and Ron. And I'm blanking on the artist's name.
Howard Simpson.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm the gray hairs grow in and they interfere with brain activity.
Oh, I wish I had a nickel for every time I forget a name these days.
They get to the tip of your tongue and you go, it won't come. But Simpson, yes.
Yeah.
And, what he has turned in so far is spectacular. He's really bearing down hard on this, and
Here's the thing that I wrote him a short message the start of the week, just politely, and said, Howard, I said, I hate pressuring artists or writers, anybody, anytime.
Yeah.
But I said, we're quickly coming on to the end of the year. And, again, we have the stories, and Rob did a really gorgeous cover for this volume. And I said, it'd really be nice to get it out by the end of the year, if that's at all possible. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, he writes me back. And he goes, yeah, he goes, right. And to paraphrase, right, he goes, the plan was always to give a copy to my dad for Christmas. So he says, everything's been put aside, guys. The deals are coming. So thank you, Howard. All right.
Yeah, we got it. He's got to get on it, because Christmas is coming up fast now.
I gave him till the middle of December. I told him at the end of the second week of December, if he can have all the illustrations,
right,
it's doable for us to get the book out before January the 1st, even before Christmas. All right. Again, if we have the illustrations, we have the cover. So then it's a matter of the elements and assembling the book.
Yep. We might even, we can talk about it later. We can do something.
Yeah.
We can do something we've done before with this one, maybe speed it up a little bit too. But we'll talk about that. Yeah.
And another book that I want to say is probably going to be neck and neck with all American sports stories right now. Okay. And that's Fred Adams, who is easily one of the most prolific writers that we have here at Airship 27. And the first novel that he ever wrote and we eventually published was Dead Man's Melody. All right. And it's under the banner of a Sam Dunn mystery. Sam Dunn is a professional musician, composer, writer. And in that first volume got involved with a murder. Well, an old member of one of his rock group had been killed and suspicion fell on him. Sam ultimately ends up helping the police find the real killer. So it was always Fred's idea, and Fred himself is a musician. He's done this. He's lived this.
He was in a band.
Yeah. So there's a lot of authenticity with him writing Sam Dunn. I always maintain Sam Dunn is pretty much Fred. It's the shell game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The novel's first person too. So.
Right. So in this particular setup, Sam has been hired by a small independent film company to write the music for a horror film that they're filming. So the sound score. So Sam is on location with them one night when the lead actress is murdered. And once again, Sam gets caught up in murder and blah, blah, blah. This one's called Blood is the New Black. And Rob's already done the cover, which I love that cover. Won't give it away, but it's really, really cool. And he kept the same design and font stuff that we use for Dead Man's Melody to have some kind of continuity with the series. All right.
Right.
So basically what we were holding up on was Richard Junn, our illustrator. And Richard is an optometrist. And with this whole COVID thing, I later learned, Rob, that he'd been working in a lot of hospitals, helping them out.
Oh, really?
With eye problems and this and that. But obviously, because of COVID and protective stuff and whatever, their life went upside down as well, too. So a lot of things had to get rescheduled, redone different ways and whatever. And in the midst of this, he's trying to get these illustrations to us. So God bless him and all the medical people on the front lines that are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. But basically about a week and a half ago, he dropped me a line and said, please tell Fred I apologize. It's taking me way too long. I'm going to try to get this wrapped up by Thanksgiving. And here we are. We're a week away, and he's only got 2 illustrations to go.
Yeah.
So, again, this looks like it's going to be another one that's going to be out there rather quick. And again, thanks a lot, Richard, for this. And again, for your service to your fellow man and what you do out there. So it's really appreciated. After that, what else is?
Artist Ed Cato has Ed Cato. I guess it's Cato, isn't it?
Cato,
He made sure we knew how to pronounce his name. It's Ed Cato. Has amped up his production of illustrations for Volume 1 of the Musketeers' New Adventures. This has 2 short stories, one by Paul Beal and another from Alan Porter. And also,
Attention. Airship 27 cop.
announcement for the podcast. I guess we should be recording the podcast now.
Okay. Thank you.
And another from Alan Porter, whereas Joel Jenkins gave us an outstanding novella for this one. Adam Shaw has already turned in a wonderful cover.
And there's Adam again. Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
another winner. Yep.
Because we do use our artists as much as we can.
Well, and again, we say, if you know any artists who might be interested in doing this stuff, join us. We don't want to wear the good guys we've got now out. Let's wear out some other folks.
Yeah. which is pretty much what we're doing. God bless every one of them. All right.
Well,
I mean,
how many of those we just announced had covers by me?
Yeah. You've done a heavy workload this year, especially.
Yeah.
And
But
then
what else have I had to do?
Well, we're going to address that in the one question we got for this show. Ultimately, at the end of the program, because we had a question which ties into
right at the last minute. I'm not right. We'll talk. But
it's you go back to artists time and time again, and I can name them off the top of my head. Okay, I mean, Ted Hammond has never said no to us. All right, and I think Ted has given us 2 or 3 covers this year. Adam will have given us with All American Sports Stories. That'll be 3 covers Adam has given us this year. I mean, I cannot say enough for these people. All right, they are, their talent, their heart is as generous as their talent. That's about the best way to sum it up. All right, they could easily say, hey, I've given you 1 or 2 this year, and I got other things to do, and I'm sure they do. I'm sure they have commissions and gigs or whatever, but hey, that generosity deserves praise and mention here, and that's why we do that. All right.
Yeah, because we don't pay a lot of money for these. We're not a big publishing company. We're doing this mostly for love of the medium, and a lot of the folks that do the illustrations and the covers for us, they do it because they love pulp too. I mean, if you're an artist who's a fan of pulp, there's a thrill to doing a pulp cover that can't be matched by anything else you do.
Yep. Well, yeah.
One thing in our favor.
When I approached Adam about doing the boxing cover, it was the theme that lured him in. All right, he got excited because he hadn't done a boxing, cover before. So, and again, like I said, he's delivered above and beyond. And continuing on with books that are coming to conclusion, we finally have The Masked Rider, Tales of the Wild West. And this will be volume 3. It features a Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday story by Thomas McNulty, a veteran Western writer. We have a short Masked Rider story by Paul Findlay. And our good buddy and oftentimes proofreader, Gordon Demowski, turned in a Masked Rider novella. Now, as you and I are talking, Shane Evans of New Zealand has turned in the cover. It's done and ready to go. And newcomer to us, Jason Wren, now doing his second book for us, is really whipping through the illustrations.
Yeah.
I mean, he's halfway there now. Of the 12 he has to do for this volume, he's working on number 6. He just showed me and Rob the rough for number 6 earlier today.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking sometimes next week, Jason will have wrapped up his second book. The first being the Jana Coyne mysteries that he did based on Robert Ritchie's. And Jason's a great artist, really great young artist. We're really happy to have him on board. So here you go. Those are just some of the things that are, coming down the pike. Some of the other things that I can off the top of my head talk about that we will start seeing coming together is Rob. I just sent Rob Nancy Hansen's latest Jezebel Johnston Pirate Queen novel, and this is number 7. Of the saga. All right, and it continues along. It's a great read. I had a blast, and Rob loves the series as much as I do.
Yeah, I really do.
Nancy's created some memorable characters with us, and because of the fact that how we wrapped up the first 4 volumes and did that omnibus edition, gave Nancy, a really solid path to how she wanted to continue the series. So we've already talked, and volumes, especially volumes 6 and this 7, are connected stories that will lead to a semi-level conclusion with book number 8. And once that's done, you can rest assured we'll eventually be getting out a second omnibus collection, collecting those latest 4 volumes. So it ends up being a bargain for our readers at the same time, who enjoy it and save a few pennies instead of just picking up the books individually. But it's such a great series, and if you love pirate stuff, you really have to find this. You really do.
She's done her homework on this. She really has.
The detailing, the history, it's all historically accurate. Okay,
yes.
so then when Rob wraps this up, no rest for the wicked, as they say, right, buddy? Rob's going to have his holidays, but come January 2021, Rob is going to be working on a really special Ian Watson Sherlock Holmes book. We've mentioned
I wanted to do it next, but then we had this one from Nancy, and got to get this finished for Nancy. Definitely.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because fair was fair. We had already done. We just released volume 16 of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detectives, which was 2 Sherlock Holmes for this year, which is usually par for the course. Yep. Right. So, balancing those 2 things off, we went back to Ian Watson, and Ian's a great guy and gentleman, and said, you know what, if you would be so kind, let us kick off 2021 with that special Ian Watson Sherlock Holmes package. And he graciously agreed and said, sure, that sounds like fun. So Rob gets to do Jezebel Johnson 7. We hopefully, can get that out close to the end of the year, but definitely the start of the year, we're going to launch 2021 with a really, really special book that I'm very excited about. And then we've got all the assorted usual stuff coming down the pike. We've got more Mystery Men and Women. Surprisingly, Rob, after the release of Volume 6, I have already gotten a new a new Curie story.
Wow. Okay.
And a new Mr. Fix-It story. Okay.
Wow. I love that story.
So I have got Teal Glenn James sent me another story for it. So I've actually got 75% of Mystery Men and Women Volume 7 already done, which caught me by surprise as well. So we've got a lot of different things out there coming your way, and we've got a story, we've got a book that I am personally excited about, because as all of you who probably listen to this on a regular basis know, one of the things that we have fun doing, and we did this year thanks to our buddy R.A. Jones, is publish books outside of what most people see as pulp and wouldn't expect. The Road Twice Travel, which he did at the start of the year, and then he gave us that amazing Alice in Neverland. Okay, well, there is a Vietnam veteran. I talked about my experiences there. There's a veteran writer artist, Rob, named Daryl Purcell, who lives in Arizona. And he writes and publishes his own stuff, his own independent stuff. Hollywood Cowboy Detectives. All right. And it's the old cowboy heroes from the silent films, like Gibson, Ken Maynard, and whatever. And they all get involved with these mysteries and whatever. And he publishes these. They're great. They're awesome. All of which led me to start a correspondence with Daryl. I reviewed some of his books. And then again, learned about his career in the military. He was in Vietnam between 66 and 67, which was just before I got there, and part of the 101 Airborne Division. He saw action. And after he came back home, went to college in California and became an illustrator, became a professional illustrator artist, had quite a career in that, and eventually retired. And now he writes and draws and whatever. And so during our correspondence, like I said, it's like I'm always thinking to myself, I wish I could draw Daryl into Airship 27, get him to do something for us. Well, out of the blue, he drops me this line and says, I've had this idea of a story about 4 old Vietnam veterans living in a senior facility who get involved with a bunch of gangsters in their town and they take them on. Okay. The book, the book is called Geezers. I kid you not. I love it.
Okay.
I finished reading and editing it this past week. I'm working out in my head. I have some ideas who I want to get to illustrate it. I got back to Daryl. I told him, I think people are going to be so surprised by this thing. They won't see it coming. Okay. But again, it's that fun thing. It's just like, let's shake things up a little bit. So, hey, 2021, we're going to get a vaccine here. We're going to get shots. We're going to get back to
conventions
and seeing our friends. And so, hey, thanks for sticking with us this year, especially for your support this year. It's meant a whole lot to us, more ways than we can say, believe me. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that's it for most of the show. And we're going to get to that question that Lee Houston Jr. sent along. I'll let you
right
read.
at the last minute here. So I haven't been able to give it a whole lot of thought. So you go ahead, because
Okay.
I have an idea, but I want to see where you go.
All right. Yeah. It's one of those questions, Lee, let me read it. Okay. He goes, other than the effects of the pandemic, what do you think is or was the biggest new pulp development of 2020? And boy, it's like, how do you interpret that? A development? What was a development? I mean, are we talking about, any kind of special books or whatever? If that's the case, then I would hazard to say that as far as we're concerned, and I can't speak for all new pulp, but this did touch the community, was you and I got out who's who in new pulp.
Yeah.
All right. Which I think was a benchmark for the year. I think it was something that I know for a fact that the community got behind, because we sold an unusual amount of copies.
Ordered books.
and basically gave, I've already given several nice big checks to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which was because it was a beneficial benefit type project. So again, I think that was a benchmark for us at Airship 27. All right. Now, as far as the entire community itself, two things for me, Rob. One, I think our productivity across the board was better. Okay. Again, we entered the year, the first couple podcasts we did, you can go back and look at those, and we thought, oh, this is going to be a slow year. And then COVID hit, and we didn't know where that was going to put us. But just the opposite happened. Okay. Writers and artists found themselves, not being able to go to conventions, not being able to go out. And so, as Rob's favorite saying is, if you get lemons, make lemonade. Our writers and artists said, well, you know what? They rolled up their sleeves and started writing more and drawing more. And so by midsummer, that's what we're just talking about. All of a sudden, we're putting out books right and left. And I'd like to think that was an offshoot of COVID, that, people said, you know what, we're going to take a negative and make it a positive. So that, I think, was a benchmark that I'll remember of 2020. Not so much in negativity as how this community came together in such a positive way, all right, and did a lot of amazing books, stories, art, you name it, all right. And the last thing that I will remember for 2020 is the fact that we lost a couple of really, really good members of this community. And the two that, because there were more, and then I'm sure a lot of you are thinking of other people, but the two I wanted to bring across and remember here in this show, because it's a reflective thing. We've got one more show before the end of the year, but the two I want to think of are Mark Halegua, who was a huge part of the new pulp. And Mark, like we do these shows, Mark had actually created a pulp fan club in New York City, in greater New York City, that met once a month. And I'm very happy to report that it's still going on. People that he did it with, Ed Hulse and Chris Culp and others, still hold it. And I think they just had an anniversary meeting last weekend or whatever, okay? But Mark was such a spitfire and a spark plug, and he will be missed. He will, I mean, at conventions, he will sorely be missed. He was so much fun and the life of the party thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one wasn't so much somebody, no, it wasn't somebody that Robin met, but was a dear friend of mine and had such an impact on New Pulp, especially amongst the Black community. And that was my good buddy, Charles Saunders, who passed away very unexpectedly early in the year, and news of that didn't reach the community or the public for almost 4 or 5 months afterwards.
Yeah,
and
that's a sad one.
Yeah. So those are the things that I guess that's the way to look at it reflectively. Those are the things I'll remember as time goes by about what 2020 was all about. So hand it off to you, my friend.
Well, those are all good. I can't think of anything that isn't touched by the pandemic. I mean, the biggest thing I felt was the lack of conventions. Not being able to get out and meet the fans and meet our creator friends and that. And I think I think in some ways that forced us to kind of get together, through social media and start, doing more in the studio, doing more in the office, and connecting with people in that fashion. It kind of changed how we interacted and how we connected with each other. So mine is, it says, other than the effects of the pandemic. Well, the effects of the pandemic are what most impacted me over this year. I've had, I don't know if how many others have had this problem, but I've had to, by not having people to get together with personally, it has affected my mood, my mental state. So I've had to battle with that. It's not a dangerous thing where I'm going to go off and do something harmful to myself, but it's, I get these kind of melancholy moments, and you brought up Mark Calegua. There's, that was a tough one because he was such a good buddy for both of us, that losing him, that was a blow. I mean, we knew he was sick and he, that his days were numbered, but it still hurts when that happens.
Yeah.
And not ever getting to meet Charles Saunders. That was somebody I would like to have met. And he actually lives where my grandfather was born. He lived in Nova Scotia, and that's where my grandfather was born, in Nova Scotia. So there were some thoughts of maybe going up to visit and maybe trying to run into Charles, and now that can't happen. So the biggest thing that to me is that the impact that this has had on everyone, and hopefully we can, like Ron says again, when they serve you lemons, make lemonade. Make something good out of the bad things that are handed to you. And I think that most, if not all of us in the new pulp era here have done that. I mean, we're starting to get more books in. Artists are really bearing down, and it's one way to get that angst of all of this out, right. Put it on the paper and push it out the door, and let it go out into the world, and let it make people happy by having something really cool for them to read. So
Amen.
That I think is so. I can't put aside the effects of the pandemic. I think that's the important thing that happened this year. I think that's what put Who's Who a New Pulp out there, and it got everybody involved in that, because that was a way for us to kind of come together. So, I think some really good things have come out of this year because of what's happened.
What you're talking about echoes, again, I mentioned at the start of the show, listening. And again, another highlight of the year will have to be that Tommy's back with Pulped. Okay. Yeah. So here we go again. Okay. It's another good step. Okay. It's another positive step. And in listening to his interview with Gary Phillips last night, Gary's about our age, all right, and he's been around for a while. And so in talking about his career and everything, he kept going back to something which I really appreciated a great deal. And that was the fact that, aside from dealing with social issues or this or that, he basically said, he says, when I write, I never try to stand on a soapbox. He says, I'm not here to preach. I'm here to entertain you. Okay, That's number one. I'm here to entertain you. And that's what the new pulp community's always been about to me, all right? It's basically writing stories that make us forget our troubles, all right? And look, I mean, hey, pulps are born in the Depression, for Pete's sakes, all right? We're worried about 1 year of COVID, and these people went years without work.
Yeah, almost
all right?
a decade. Yeah,
almost a decade, all right? So that's when, at the height of all this awfulness, along came these magazines and stories. For what? To brighten people's spirits, okay? And that's the heritage that Rob and I and everybody in this community has picked up on, okay? And said, hey, give me that baton. Let's carry this through. So, hey, we got a little mini depression this year, all right? And I think, and I'm with Rob, okay, bravo to the entire pulp community, to all our colleagues out there, all right? Everybody that we know, all right? Who basically stepped up and said, yeah, we're going to make this work. We're going to do some good things with this. And they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And so hopefully that answers your question, Lee.
Yeah, it was a beaut. What can I say? All right.
I mean, it came in over the transom there at the last. So I was racking my brain. Because a lot of good stuff did happen this year. What's the biggest one? Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't separate out anything that happened this year from COVID now. You just can't. You just
public,
can't.
Public, private, all of us were affected.
Absolutely.
Nobody got away from that.
Yeah.
So, hey, before we get to your joke, the next little item we throw in is anything else you want to add this episode? What are you working on right now? Still Twilight Grim?
Yeah, I've got Twilight Grim. I'm up to page, I think that's page 19 of 22 pages on issue 3. I think we're going to have a Kickstarter for number 2, issue 2 here very shortly. And hopefully by the next time we'll either have had it or I can announce when that's going to be. I'm in the middle of reading Nancy Hansen's new volume 7 of the pirate stories, Jezebel Johnston, and having a ball. Now this is not. I noticed with this story that it really is a continuation of the previous book.
Right.
There's not a recap at the beginning, and you kind of have to have read the previous one in order to know what's going on with this one. That as my editor hat kind of goes, I would like if we could do a recap or something at the beginning, but I think people that are with it at this point are gonna come along with us, and this is not a jumping on point. This is a continuation of the previous one. So I think that's where she's going with this now. Is it seems like this series is a true series now, in that like the Lord of the Rings was a series.
Oh, right, and it excites me to no end, because after I finish reading this particular volume, which is subtitled Mastiff. Which is the name of the ship that Jezebel finds herself on in this particular chapter of the saga. But when she turned in the manuscript to me, her cover letter, her and I had been over the months kicking around where the series were going and what was happening in it. Okay, and there are several elements in this particular volume that I want to say portend to the future of where the saga is going. Okay. And again, I won't give any clearer detail, except they were themes that I had talked to Nancy about as to, okay, so we're 5-6 books into it. When are those themes going to come about, and how far do you see this saga going? And so that was it. Nancy had to sit back and start really giving all that kind of serious thought. And so in this particular novel, more than anything else, although it's still packed with the same action and adventure all of them have had, all right, Jezebel's character is beginning to evolve. There is a definite shift that's happening now as she gets older, and the experiences make her someone else. Okay, and that's all I'll say about that. But it's part of that saga building we're talking about. All right, because ultimately she will be a pirate queen, and which again is being in on the ground floor, Rob. Me and you. Okay, this is so much fun. All right. When that day comes and that volume comes, it's going to be something special. And I'm really tickled that Nancy years ago brought us the series in the first place. It's been a blast.
It has. I've really enjoyed this. I haven't read much pirate fiction before this, but I'm really enjoying Nancy's an excellent writer, and she's done her homework, and their characters are very the whole thing kind of pulls you in, and the characters pull you in as well. So look for this one, folks.
All right. So now yours truly, two things. The first one, real quick, it can be easy for me to share with everybody. And that's my giant new comic book from Moonstone, Black Bat Domino Lady, Danger Coast to Coast, is the one that contains a 3-issue miniseries, a 4-issue miniseries, and caps with a special, never before seen 11-page Ivy Frost comic strip. Okay, it's all done. Three years or more in the making.
Oh, and
it's been done for a while. I think it's going to come in at like 120 pages. I just heard, and the reason I'm bringing it up, because I've mentioned it on Facebook. I've showed Doug Clava's cover, which is to die for. But it hits comic shops, Rob, next Wednesday. It's out. I am psyched to get my copies of this. All right. So thank you, Joe Gentile, and the good people at Moonstone. It was a lot of fun writing those scripts, working with those various artists who brought those scripts to life. And I love those characters. It's pretty much the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen done pulp style. I mean, we've got Airboy, Golden Amazon, Ivy Frost, the Phantom Detective, Jim Anthony, Kygor the Jungle Lord. They're all there. It's a stew.
Crossover city.
Yeah, it's a ball. Okay, so that's that. Pulp wise. I wanted to bring up all our friends on where the Brother Bones web series is at. Since the last time, Rob, you joined us for our little, Zoom conference or whatever with the producer and the director.
Yeah.
They started auditions.
Yeah, casting.
Yeah. They recruited a casting director from L.A., a woman with amazing credentials. Okay. They put up a posting on the website itself, which is basically one word, Brother Bones web series. You can go check it out. And I think within 48 hours of having that up, one of the first pages on it, Rob, was a casting call page, okay, for the characters what they wanted. And they virtually ended up with over 3,000 inquiries and video clips, which they then had to, weed their way through. And then this casting director, what's happened in the last week and a half is they've actually found a Brother Bones. I have seen the auditions, and today they're pretty much close to. They sent me 2 auditions for 2 actors to play the mob boss, Topper Wild.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I think they've, from our back and forth between myself and them, came to a final verdict on who Topper Wild is going to be. So basically, the primary characters that will be appearing in the first few episodes are now being cast. And then once that's done, they'll fill in the supporting roles and whatever. I think the plan is, from what I get from Brian Patterson, the producer, is that once the major characters have been officially cast, they will start giving out press releases at the start of December on who this cast is. And Rob, I got to tell you, I've looked up these people. I mean, I was watching the audition of the gentleman who got the role of Brother Bones, And as I was watching it, my son walked in the room and come up behind me, as looking at the monitor, and he looked over my shoulder and said, "What's that?" And I says, I started to say, "Well, that's an actor who's auditioning." He goes, "I know him." And I went, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Oh, I've seen him in hundreds of things." Yeah. So I went and checked out his IMB thing online or whatever.
IMDb, yeah.
Yeah, right. He has been in hundreds of television shows, movies, or whatever. He's a name, and I'm not stealing their thunder. I think fans are going to be flipping nuts when they find out who is playing the Bonello brothers and Brother Bones. So I'm
Wow.
really excited. Again, sticking with the overall plan, it's to basically start these announcements at the 1st of December and launch the GoFundMe project, however they're going to do that. And then I guess all of us will get back together for future conferences as to what kind of premiums and stuff that we can put together and tantalize our fan base out there to help us support this and make it happen. So that's the latest on the Brother Bones web series, folks. Thank you for the emails I get and the interest and whatever. Keep those fingers crossed for us. Obviously, the money's always the challenge. It's always the biggest thing.
Always is.
Always is to overcome. So let's think positive, okay? Because man, what a way to start 2021. That would be insane. All right, Rob.
Cool.
All right. Lay it on us.
Get ready. All right. He loved his job. Driving a train had been his dream ever since he was a child. He loved to make the train go as fast as possible. Unfortunately, one day he was a little too reckless and caused a crash. He made it out, but a single person died. Well, needless to say, he went to court over this incident. He was found guilty and was sentenced to death by electrocution. When the day of the execution came, he requested a single banana as his last meal. After eating the banana, he was strapped to the electric chair. The switch was thrown, sparks flew, smoke filled the air, but nothing happened. The man was perfectly fine. Well, at the time, this is in Bulgaria, there was an old Bulgarian law that said a failed execution was a sign of divine intervention, so the man was allowed to go free. Somehow, he managed to get his old job back driving the train. Having not learned his lesson at all, he went right back to driving the train with reckless abandon. Once again, he caused the train to crash, this time killing 2 people. The trial went much the same as the first, resulting in a sentence of execution. For his final meal, the man requested 2 bananas. After eating the bananas, he was strapped into the electric chair. The switch was thrown. Sparks flew. Smoke filled the room. And the man was once again unharmed. Well, this of course meant he was to go free. And once again, he somehow managed to get his old job back. Somebody needs to look into that. To what should have been the surprise of no one, he crashed yet another train, and this time he killed 3 people. And so he once again found himself being sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, he requested his final meal. 3 bananas. "You know what? No," said the executioner. "I've had it with you and your stupid bananas and walking out of here unharmed. I'm not giving you a thing to eat. You're strapped in and you're doing this now." Well, it was against protocol, but the man was strapped into the electric chair without his last meal. The switch was pulled, sparks flew, smoke filled the room, and the man was still unharmed. The executioner was speechless. The man looked at the executioner and said, "Oh, the bananas had nothing to do with it. I'm just a bad conductor."
Oh,
That was a long build up for a really bad punchline.
Oh, Rob, what are we going to do with you? Oh, jeez. And
Hey.
once again, loyal airmen,
Yes.
another hour you are never going to
Never
get
getting back.
never. It's gone. Thank you. Thank you for spending them with us. Hey, before we sign off, I do definitely want to say this will post a few days ahead of Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all
Yes.
you loyal airmen out there. Thanks so much.
Happy Turkey Day. Yep.
Yeah, we're thankful for you guys being out there, okay, watching the show, leaving your comments, and supporting what we do. It means the world to us. As we've already indicated, as rough a year as this been, you've buoyed me and Rob up tremendously, okay? The numbers for this show continue to rise, and that says so much for you, okay? So, hey, thanks again. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. Rob, let you sign off.
Yep. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart. And we will see you next year at a convention, please. So
in December too. Let's not discount December. We're coming back one more time, you lucky devils.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, please, conventions next year. So anyway, this is your Chief Engineer, Airship 27, signing off.
And as always, Captain Ron has the fun of saying, down ship.